Welcome everybody to the Sparx Global Webinar Series for the Enterprise Architect for Business Analysis. My name's Scott Hebbard, I'm the Communications Manager at Sparx Systems, and it's a great pleasure to join you today and to host this webinar. So the topic today is requirements validation using test cases, and I'm going to be joined by Nithya, who has worked with us for some time and has a CBAP certification and has been involved in solutions for business analysis, business data modeling, business intelligence, and information architecture. I'm very pleased to have her expertise today. The agenda for today's session: first of all, I'm going to discuss how to submit questions. Then I'm going to hand over to Nithya, that's going to discuss how to create, manage, and report test cases for requirements in Enterprise Architect. We're going to do that by examining an Enterprise Architect model. And finally, we'll have Q&A with the audience at the end, where we'll be able to answer some of your questions. Please note that audio is muted for all participants. You will be able to type questions to the host and they'll come through to myself. And if we can't answer all questions live, we'll follow up offline. Many of the first questions we get is, will this be made available online? So the webinar will be made available on the Sparx Systems YouTube site and on the Sparx Systems webinar page. And we have hundreds of webinars that you can download and view at your own pace, and we encourage you to do so. In order to submit questions, simply type the question into the text box, hit send or hit enter on the numeric keypad, and that'll come through to myself. But right now, I'd like to hand over to Nithya, who's going to present our webinar today. So welcome, Nithya.
Hello, Scott. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. I'll let you know when I can see your details on screen.
Sure, thanks for your welcome. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to share my screen now.
And I can see the takeaways on screen, so I'll hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, that's the way. Let's get into the webinar without any delays. So today's objective is to understand how to use Enterprise Architect to validate requirements, how to create and manage test cases for requirements. How can I import scenarios or constraints and tests from other elements to my test case, the current test case, and how to manage test records, how to generate test reports and make documentation, create documentation. So that's our objective. Clear and simple. First, we need to understand what requirements validation is. I'm sure people here attending the webinar would have some idea of requirements verification and validation. Still, I like to reiterate what validation actually is. According to the business analysis body of knowledge, the requirements validation is done to ensure the requirements, all the requirements actually deliver the value to the stakeholder need. It fulfills the goals and objectives and the needs of the business, of the organization and the stakeholders. That's what validation is. So it's by validating, what do we get? We assess the outcome. Is it For instance, initially stakeholder would have stated a need, but the level of satisfaction varies. So the validation also allows you to improve the customer satisfaction levels. It helps exposing different needs. Most of the time what happens is when the design is completed and implementation is done and deployed, then we get comments and feedback from the stakeholders stating some different needs, or there could be conflicting needs and expectations varies. So validation helps as a checkpoint where we can get a formal approval from the stakeholder that the system designed is the right system and it satisfies all the needs that was stated. So verification, on the other hand, is about building the system right. So there's a subtle difference. We can often there's a statement saying that building system right versus building the right system. For instance, I can give you an example. An airline company in Australia, these were the first ones to introduce QR code scanning, and then the decision was made that the QR code scan can be done from the Apple Watches. The system was built; it worked perfectly. Demonstrations happened with the end users, and then the QR code was scanned properly from the watch, from the Apple Watch, and everything was fine. So this I would consider as verification. But what exactly happened was when the system was deployed and then they rolled out the system in the airports, and customers were actually actual customers, the passengers, they went out and then was trying to scan the QR code to Apple Watch. Guess what? They couldn't fit their wrist in the scanner, under the scanner. It was designed for mobile phones. The gap was not big enough, so the people cannot put their wrist under the scanner. They had to remove the watch or just use their phone to scan. So that failed. So the validation there didn't happen properly. So that's where this example gives us the difference between building the right system versus building the system right. The design may be right, verification might have happened, but then does it actually satisfy the need? Does it actually fulfill the goal? No, it didn't, right? So this is the difference. Let's now that we understand what validation is, let's move on to the requirements validation part in enterprise architect. Before that, I would also like to talk about what are the different types of validation and when does validation happen. So validation is basically an ongoing process with several checkpoints along the project timeline or the roadmap, you can say, to ensure the stakeholders requirements, solution requirements, and transition requirements, all these align with the business goals, business requirements. So this can happen during elicitation by asking questions, reiterating, like, do you mean this? This is what you want, right? Like just by asking questions, doing analysis by validating and reviewing the analysis results, and then having a formal review and approval of the specification document. Looking at whether it has adhered to standard, whether the NFRs are included, and then the other ways to validate are building a prototype and model simulations, etc. These are all types of validation. These are all how you can validate the requirements. And the most common way to use is functional tests, right? So that's where our focus is on today. So I'll be only talking about how we create test cases, manage test cases in Enterprise Architect. We'll delve into models and model simulations, etc. in a later webinar. So functional tests, basically nowadays with agile development, test-driven development is a very common practice. So what you do, you create system level tests, use case scenarios, etc. And the requirements are there, the constraints are there, it's all there in the specification document. You should be able to derive tests from all these artifacts, like say the specification document or use case scenario. So that's what we are going to look at today. So in Enterprise Architect, the tool itself supports different test categories like unit tests, system tests, integration tests, acceptance tests, scenario tests, and inspection tests. So the purpose of each of these tests is seen on the screen. As you know, unit test, you can create different fields in a class. For example, say it's just an address component in a class for a person. An address, it can have zip code. So what is the unit test? Can be zip code should be of this format type. That's an example. So then we have system test, like does the functions of a class perform correctly? Is the branching statements all happening properly, like as expected, or is there any exceptions thrown, etc. And then integration is when two or more components work together. How does the entire system work? How it behaves is what integration tests is about. Acceptance test is most important for requirements validation. So the user acceptance criteria should be, as a business analyst, as a test analyst, it's our responsibility to write the acceptance criteria, to define the acceptance criteria in order to get the validation set properly. Like I said in our previous example, where the system failed in the airline industry, where the system failed to validate, the system failed to actually allow the QR code to be scanned through the Apple Watch. Somebody should have thought like, okay, we have to look at the actual implementation staged in in an Apple setup. How would people do? They should actually put their wrist under the scanner, so is there enough gap there? It's just a small thing, but still, after rollout, that means it would have costed the company much more, in terms of time, resource, and messed up the process of checking into the flight for all these customers. Next is scenario tests. Yes, these are like, how does the application or system behave in the real world situations? That's where the scenario tests are. We'll see an example of that as well. Inspection test is to record peer review using a well-defined process, so that we have to set the test plan, like how does peer review happen, etc., as a BA or test analyst. All right, so now we have seen a bit of a context of our topic today. Let's delve into the model, enterprise architect model. So today I'm going to use EA example model. So if you have EA installed in your machine, you can open up the EA example model and follow through the steps that I'm going to show you. So now I'm going to go into the enterprise architect model.
So I can see the model on screen now. Nithya, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Fantastic, thanks. That's right. Okay, so I've used a mind map diagram in Enterprise Architect to make sure we cover all the topics. Make sure I cover all the topics that I've promised to deliver. So the first one is creating and managing test cases for requirements. So how do we do it? Like, as a tool, EA has the user interface. So let's just go into the interface part of it. How do we say the testing? How does it? What are the interfaces to manage the test cases? So now the testing UI. Go in the main menu. There's this construct. So if you go into construct, there's testing category. In the testing category, we have tests. So just click on that menu and then go to all, or you can do the separate one, whichever one you need. So click on all. As you can see, the testing part opens. The UI for recording tests opens up. So hope everyone can see. So all the categories are in here: in unit, integration, system, acceptance, scenarios, and inspection tests. Okay, so this is the first part. Next is inspector window. This is a fantastic addition to the EA user interface. It allows you to look into all the aspects of a element artifact in EA. For example, let's say we have a use case. You can directly go into the inspector window and see all the relationships, all the constraints, all the scenarios, all the testing and maintenance and effort, whatever defined there for that use case, we will be able to see that. I will open all the EUI now and set the workspace, and then we'll make an element as a context element, subject of interest, and then we'll see how all this UI goes. So the inspector window is in the project browser. That's a toolbox. That's not what I wanted. Let's say. So it's very easy in EA. If you don't find anything, this is the first thing that I would like to try. I just go and check, did I spell the incorrectly. Okay, recent diagrams. Okay, I'll just come here. Basic diagramming. I'll just click on a workspace. Now we have the project browser. Yes, this is what I was looking for, guys. And here's the inspector window. It's just docked beside the browser. So here's the inspector window. We can keep this open as well. And then I'll open up the tests. And then we have the properties. Yes, properties is here, right here. And I need the notes field as well for an element. So notes, documents window, is it? Okay. So now what we're going to do is I will open, I'll select element in the example model. For example, say test case order screen tests, etc. System testing. Okay. So as you can see, we can see all the system tests here and the properties of test cases here. And then if I click on one single element, one single test, I mean customer has no orders, we can see the system tests. Okay, so what we can now do is set this as a workspace. Okay, so what we do for that is start and then go to start and then there's workspace and say save as new layout and then say as my new test layout. Looks like I've already saved one. So this one is saved. Once you save this layout, you can easily access them through the portals where I have set new test layouts. There are a couple of them. Let's say this. Let me change to a different one so that you will be able to see. Let's say I have a clear one. So this is clear. We just have the diagram view. And now I again go into the portals and then say my new test layout, and you can easily go into that workspace and you have all the necessary windows docked. So this is the usual my testing workspace layout. So as you see, I've also docked the notes, properties, the inspector, and testing. So when I click on a particular item, I will get to see all the important aspects of this particular element. What are the relationships? Are there any constraints? Are there scenarios defined? What is the maintenance aspects? Are there any issues created, tasks created? Are there any resources, etc.? So let's move on with this. The other thing is test domain diagram. Now let me go back to the clear workspace. That will make things easier. So if you're only doing testing, I recommend you to set your own workspace which way where you're comfortable with. You can move around all these little windows and dock around the edges of the screen in Enterprise Architect. So whichever way you want, whether you're right-handed, left-handed, just you can adapt the positions of these windows as you need, as you like, and then set your workspace, save it as a workspace, and then when you want all these docked little windows, you can just go to the workspace so everything is set for you to start your work. Because we switch from presentation mode and then into the testing mode, I have set this. I'm going into clear workspace and then I'm going into the testing workspace between these two, as you can see. So the next topic is the test domain diagram. So Okay, so this is a test domain diagram. I'm just going to give you an overview of it. I'm not going to go into detail of this test domain. Test domain diagram is a type of diagram in Enterprise Architect which allows you to create or categorize the test cases. So there's a test suite, and then under which you can have test cut, test sets, and then test cuts, which is the atomic form. Okay, so maybe test set can group the tests of all the little fields in a class, and book test can be test case for an entire function, and test suits for a capability. So the one that you're seeing right now is in an example model. This is basically generated from within EA, as you can see, from recordings and test sets. Basically, EA has a visual execution analyzer, which allows you to analyze a scenario, visually execute and analyze the scenario by running a code behind. And then you can have some test points and then record all these test points and create test cuts automatically. You can go into the help in EA and then find out more details about this. This is not going to be the topic. This is not going to be in our webinar in detail. We can cover this in another bit because it requires a full half an hour to 1 hour by itself. So that's test domain diagram. And then we can go into test plan. Okay, now that we know about the UI, user interface, we'll delve into, okay, how do we start? We need a test plan. So creating a test plan. How to create a test plan? Basically, for any diagram, go into artifacts and then you can create a document artifact. Let me tell you how it's done, and then I will show you the example one. So put this on artifact because it's a document artifact. When you double click, it allows you to make a document out of this artifact. And there are some predefined templates. The one that I'm going to choose is test plan, and then click on this. So this gives you a template. You can adapt, customize this template according to the needs of the project and your organization. So what's the scope of testing? What's the system design? What are the objectives and roles, etc. So using this template, you can build your test plan, or you can create your own test plan. Don't have to if you don't like to use template. I will now go into this test plan, which is there in the example model. If you want to see where it is, I'll just go and find out for you. I don't need the toolbox now anymore. I'll hide it. So where it is an example model. It's under testing. Yeah, it's under testing. See the test plan here. That's where it is. So I'll double click this and we can see, okay, that's for some company called Murray.com, and then there's a test plan. And yeah, here's a scope. This section gives a scope of testing process, blah blah blah, and then the system design. What are the roles? What's the frequency of test, etc. Everything, whatever plan you need to set the procedure and process that you follow in the organization, or you want to follow, that you think it's necessary to be followed to successfully do the validation of the requirements. You plan it ahead. The more you plan, the better the outcome will be. All right. Okay. So now let's go into how to show test scripts on an element in a diagram. This is another user interface aspect, so I'm just adding it here. Sometimes what happens is users add test cases using the testing window. Let me go into the my test workspace. So it'll be easy for me to demonstrate what I exactly mean. Okay, so here's my testing workspace. I click on this and I can see there are a lot of unit tests here added to this test screen. But sometimes if you want to capture this in a diagram, I want to show it in the diagram. I don't want to go for each and everything to testing window. What should I do is basically right click on the diagram, go to the diagram properties, And then in the diagram properties, there's the elements, and from the in this show compartments category, go in here and then select testing. If you want scenarios, you can select scenarios as well. So whatever items you want to show on the diagram, these attributes, these compartments, if you want them to be added to the element that's displayed on the screen, you can select those if you want the notes, etc. So I have only selected testing and scenarios. Let's just see what it has. Okay, now this particular element ordered screen test, which is actually a test case to test and user interface for order screen, has unit tests, and I can see there are some. There's one test that's failed, and the rest of them are all pass. Okay. Let me also show you a sample here. So this is the user story, and then there's the requirement. The most important thing is every requirement should have a test associated with it. So it's a responsibility of a BA to make sure, a test analyst to make sure that the requirements, all the requirements in the requirement specification has a test associated with it. That's where traceability is very, very important. You need to have a relationship between the requirement and test case. Should be able to inherit or derive the not inherit, I'm sorry, I should say derive the test cases from the specifications. So let's say this is a user interface, sorry, a user story, and there is the property of the user story, and there's the stock manager here. So this user story here, as a stock manager, I want to be able to list stock levels for a selection of titles. The requirement is a user must be warned when the report generation time is going to be more than 1 minute. So that from this statement, you should be able to derive a test script, right? So these are some. There are some 3 system tests, and there are some maintenance tasks associated with it. So we can see all these things. And there's a constraint that says the solution must use available stored procedures. That looks like a technical constraint to me. So you can have constraints that will also help you derive test cases. This is another example, and it shows the impact that creates when you display the test scripts, maintenance, and everything on the diagram, saying if you want to show this to, for a verification or a validation purpose to a stakeholder or, to a formal reviewer, you just create this, send this, you can just click on this and then say EA has very good collaboration features being improved towards every version. So just click on this this 3 hamburger symbol and then say share or comment or discuss and review. Send for review. You can join a review and submit it for review to the to a formal reviewer, designated formal reviewer. So by this way, they don't have to go into different modes to see all the details. They just see this element, it's there, they see all the important aspects that are required for verification information, and they just go, okay, everything looks fine, or you have to change, or you have to add a particular test, or the constraint is not good enough, etc. So that's the usage. So with this, we have covered the user interface aspects, like how you can use the EA user interface. Often what I hear from some of the users is like, it has all these features, but I'm a bit lost, like how to go and get all these little things, like where do I find this feature, etc. So I'd like to cover the user interface first and then move on to the rest of the topic. Okay, these are this is the groundwork. Let's say, okay, now that I know the testing window, I can add more testing window. For example, like just right click, you can add test for any copy or import new test. I'll say add new test. Copy test should copy every property of the original test. let's say, it should not just copy the description and just the result, but I want all the properties like class, type, run by, etc. Everything should be copied. I'm just going to create a new set. So just say apply and okay. 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 Interesting. Let me do copy test should capture all attributes of the original test. Okay, and just for the sake of time, we'll just copy and put it here and say okay. That's something I should delve into. Maybe because the mind map diagram. Let's look into the test case itself, testing diagram, and see what happens for a test case. What happens? Okay. Let's go into the test case element. Internal test. Okay, there it is. It's a new order. Let's just check that out. People will be wondering what's happening, like I am. A new test case. I'm just doing it for the purpose of testing only. See, this is another. Yeah, here you go. For a test case, easily, nice. Still, I have to follow up the other one. Okay. So there's some unit tests here. I'll just remove this one because it doesn't make any sense. Okay, all right. Okay, importing. The next topic is how to import test cases. Import tests from other elements. Here is open orders. So this is the test case. We can see there are a lot of there are like 4 system tests that are defined for this, for open orders. Now that I see there are like some system tests, and I have decided, oh, I need to do some, unit tests, something. How do I get that information into here? I don't want to copy it from, or type everything, because I know I've defined it elsewhere in some other element. I just need a copy of it in here. How do I import it? So what we can do is we can right click on this and right click here, and sorry, not on the element, go to the testing window. In the add new system or add new system test or unit test, what we can do is add new test or import element requirement or import test from other elements. Let's just say unit test. What are all the elements here? So these are all the elements in the repository which has the unit tests already defined. So ours is open orders. So let's say for class orders, there are a lot of there are like I don't know why I say a lot of, but I'm used to seeing lots of test cases in one element, so I keep saying that. Sorry guys. So like 5 unit tests defined for this class, which is order. I want this to be imported into the test case open order. And then I select all, or you can just say select 1 or 2, whatever you want. I'll select all now, and then I click on import. There you go. All the unit tests are already imported. It's so easy. So as the system has, as the requirements change, the change will again form a new test for a system or a functionality, so that you can import a change as a test case as well. You can import the requirement as a test case. So just say import element requirements, and then if there's what type of test you want to import as, you can do that. So if there are any requirements that are having traceable, for example, if for this test case it traces to a particular change, you can right click and import directly into this test case whatever change has been proposed and approved to go on. Like you can add it as a test case here. Hope that makes sense. All right. So that is importing tests from other elements. Copy tests. Okay, this is interesting. There are a lot of ways to do things in EA. Copy test is something like you don't have to go into the detail, like right click, where do I right click, etc. We have the sometimes like okay, I have to right click here or right click here, how do I import? Instead, what you can simply do is, if you have any other, say for example, have a test basket. This is just for example's sake, might not be logical, but let's say cart total is correct for open orders. I just want this in my test for open orders. What do? I just select this test case basket, go to the inspector window. So many different ways of doing things. I just drag and drop it as okay, as a system test. There you go. We have this. The test is already added in here. So that's how you do it. And then you can drag and drop from the testing window. Now I'm dragging and dropping from the testing window. So that way you can move tests between different elements. Okay. Okay, so moving back to our import test from use case scenarios. Okay. So now there's a use case scenario defined, the basic path, alternate path, exception path, etc. So how can I import the scenarios? As you see, there are no scenario tests defined for view basket test. What we can do is go into the scenario test, right click and import element scenarios. You can say this is for view basket, right? So add to shopping, that's a scenario, or you want to view basket, just say create, manage, package, process order, receive order, remove from shopping basket. Again, this is another scenario you would like to test. Select all and import. There you go. There's one we have there. So we have added, we'll say add to shopping basket as well. This is again another scenario, adding to shopping basket. I need to add the scenarios as my tests. I will click on import. So now that we have imported, let's see how it looks with the properties. So for the first one, delete an item, we have the description, but still there are no acceptance criteria, input and result that can be defined. But it's easy for us to actually import the scenarios into the test cases directly without going through the pain of typing it every time. Okay, so these are different ways of managing the requirements and creating and recording the requirements in enterprise architect. Again, this is the way. This diagram is again a test case diagram. So there's a test suite, open orders, and then this test case links to list current orders and package orders. So it validates the use case list current orders and validates package orders. So you can diagrammatically represent a particular test case, what part of the system it validates, or what component it validates, etc. So that ensures traceability. As I always say, traceability is an essential part of having a high quality business analysis practice and approach in order to maintain end-to-end traceability and do a very good effective impact analysis. Okay. So now we'll move to the third part, which is test records and test report generation. So test records using test properties, which we have briefly looked at, but still I will look into it further. So there it is, a system test. So the properties of this test, Finally, okay. Just showing you when I get time, like how I generally do. If I want to find in diagrams, I right click and then say find in all diagrams, list which diagram it is in. Let me say I choose this one. Okay, this is there. So these are the test defined system tests and unit tests. I can double click on this and then see the properties. Let's say what is the description, this is the input, the acceptance criteria, total matches the sum of all the items selected, and then the results. What type of test it is, okay, what category of test, whether it's unit, system, or what, and then what type of test is standard test, load test, and regression test, and when it was run, last run, what is the result, or who is it run by and checked by, etc. Okay, so let's say we have run it today and it has passed, and Leo Burns, which was run by, let's say, Scott Hubbard, and yeah, and then okay. So now you can see the properties in like one window where what is the status, what type, what class of test, what type of test. Okay, now we know that standard tests have been done, but I want regression test as well. What do? I just copy this test again and make the type as standard in the same test case. Okay, but the type will be different, but all the test properties other than that, you know, the acceptance criteria, input, and input description will be the same. So with this workspace, you can see there are the testing, all the testing that are available for this test case, the unit, system, what is the status, and in the actual testing UI panel, you have the unit tests and system tests separately with, you know, you can see everything in one like as a list. And in the notes, when you select each and every item, every test item, you see the description input separately without having to double click and go into the properties like you know, like this, and go into the properties and then having to go into different tabs, etc. You can see everything in one go and the types, etc. So that's why the workspace is so powerful. It saves you a lot of time when you're working, when you have to go through like, you know, 20 test cases a day or something like that. All right. Okay. So that is test properties. Next, we will see view test report in EA. Okay, how to view test report in EA. Okay. For this, what I will do is, okay, I'll just show you the easiest method. Go to construct and then tests. Remember, we went to construct to get into the to get this test UI panel with all the different classes of tests, the same area, but instead of going into test, we go into the outcomes. Okay. And then let's say recently modified tests. So these are the tests that are recently modified. So that's just one click. Okay, so you can change this to whatever you want. Tests not run, what are the failed tests, what are the deferred tests, are there any deferred tests, like okay, let's stick with this for now to make it easy and for the sake of time. So this is a test report which you actually see in the EA user interface. This is one way. If you just want to look at it here, this is how you do it. And if you want to export this into, say, CSV or something, you can select all and then go to this menu here, which allows you to generate documentation and export it to CSV, etc. Let's first check the CSV import export. Let's just click on CSV, let's say test cases, and then type in as sample test report, and then save. Should have saved. There it is, sample test report. Double click, let's see if it's all. There you go. All the parts of elements or aspects of the test has been exported, and you have this in a CSV. You can have directly use it if your organization likes to use Excel. That's one way. Another way is say you can either select all or do it atomically. Like I just want a report for one item which I need to send it to my manager or reviewer to review it. You can do that. Just say generate documentation for here. I've selected all the test cases. Now what I'm doing is right clicking, generate documentation window opens, selected generate documentation page. Sorry, rushing. Now selected everything, go into generate documentation, which you can generate as RTF, PDF, or docx. Word document. Now generate documentation opens, and then there's for the template, there are a lot of templates available. I've selected the test report, which is appropriate for our demonstration, and here I click generate. You can change the table of contents, what you want, etc. You can add more details into it, but for the sake of time, I'll just click generate, and you can see the pages test report has been created. Let's say. So because the layout selected was not portrait, we have the landscape layout. That's where this comes. The first two, the table of contents and test report, and then the view basket test were in portrait. So sorry, the actual test cases were in portrait. So these are all these 5 pages was generated with one single click of button. Okay, that's how powerful it is. And now close. So this is one way. The other way is, say for example, we have defined a testing package. In our example, we have a testing package, right? So I just click on the testing package and go to publish, and in publish as report builder, click on generate documentation again, which will open up the same generate documentation dialog which we saw earlier. for now we can say this is cover page and table of content is portraits, and see what happens. And then we have everything else the same. Let's just generate, but for now, for this case, it's going to generate test report for all the tests that are inside this package, not the ones that we have selected here in the screen using the search. So generate. Right, so here you go, the test report, table of contents. Just chose to use landscape mode previously to show you the difference if this report is separate from the previous report, so that people don't get confused that I'm showing the same report again and again. So this is phase 1 test mode, system testing. So as you can see, the package names are all there. Package is system testing, and then the report of the tests. So here you can see it's like 12 pages. So it was all created in one click of a button. So this is another way. There's a new method which I discovered recently, and I find it really very interesting. I'll show that one as well for you. Let me open the testing diagram here, and then there is go to publish, take the custom document, and then the package selected is testing, or you can move it to anywhere you want. For me, like I like it to be here, and then I'll say sample custom test report. Just love this feature, and click on this. Do not select any template, or if you want, you can select. It's up to you. For now, if you're following through the process that I'm doing, following through the steps, you just say template is none. But then I want to create test reports for okay, fulfill okay, just this. Okay, do the test report. See, all the tests that are in that package, just got created automatically. Just drag and drop and then set the report template later as the test report. Okay, it's not run, etc. For example, let's just say add new order. There's a test called add new order. Okay, let's configure and go into settings and then people, sorry, model types and people. I will type in Catherine, role, I'll just say business analyst, save, let's say Peter, and let's say he's a use case modeler, save, close, and now just to make sure things work, add new order. Okay, load test was run by, okay, I have to refresh this, nice. Then test case, okay, it's run by Catherine and was checked by Peter. Okay, and now I go into the test case that was the sample test report. I double click, so add new orders may be made to change. What now? Just right click and then say update dynamic report elements. So you can see the change, right? I didn't set not run yet. I made it as not run yet. Okay. Okay, let's say pass. Now, again, one more time I'm going to do it. Right click and then the option, select the option update dynamic report elements. Click on this and you can see pass by Catherine and checked by Peter. Okay, so it's that easy to generate test reports. So with this, we have come to the end of the demonstrations today, how to create, manage test cases in Enterprise Architect in order to make requirements validation process effective and have the traceability and generate the documentation, etc. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask now.
Thank you very much, Nithya. I think it's really good that in such a short period of time, you've been able to show how you can use workspaces to rapidly change from a presentation interface to a testing interface. And obviously you could change to a code engineering and a software and analysis and enterprise architect workspace with just a quick button click. And you've also been able to show how you can create your own workspaces so that you can set up enterprise architect to be tailored to your particular testing needs. In under an hour, we've gone through how to, look at unit tests, integration tests, system tests, acceptance, scenario and inspection tests, how to create them, how to populate them with new users, and how to show how they run and whether they're passed or failed. We've looked at automatic report generation and a number of different topics. So I think it's quite comprehensive and it's really good. And there are, little hints like if you're selecting an element, you can press N to bring up the notes window as well. And you can always do Alt-G to find any element in the project browser. So there are a few things like that that are very handy and quite convenient as well. So we'll jump into some of these questions now. So the first one that I'd like to ask is, I'm just sorting through some of them now. So is there an EA report that would show use case and user interface test coverage? So you picked one particular test report, but perhaps Nithya, you can talk about how enterprise architect reports can be customized and tailored for any needs. And
Absolutely. Yeah. For example, let's say this user story. There's a lot of ways to create reports. Like, if I understand the question correctly, is it about generating a report for a use case scenario, or like what exactly?
I think for use case scenario and some for user interface testing. So I suppose the first thing to mention is that Enterprise Architect can be used to create wireframes and to create Win32 dialogues and
Yeah,
dialogue web pages
absolutely.
and things like that.
Yes,
But then on top of that, you can then report on that information in a number of different
absolutely,
ways.
absolutely. See, for example, this is the EA example. If you have opened the EA example, you should be able to find out, or you're just able to browse through the repository just like I do. Let's say, for example, I've gone into the UML modeling and then the use case model, and say, for example, manage users, there's login, there's create account, and view history. These are all some of the use case scenarios. Let's double click the this is how we this is a a sequence diagram, and then we have this use case diagram, login. This is again an example here. Let's go into manage inventory. There is this add new titles. So again, this is manage titles. These are the use cases. So if you want to generate a report for this use cases and all the scenarios that are there available, as I said, if you want to know if their scenarios are there, so that these are the scenarios for the use case I've selected. Create order, order new title, etc. The scenarios are defined. Etc. So now what you can do, if you just want to have a report for the use case, just click on the package where for which contains all the elements that you want to create a report for. Either do this way, just select here and then go into publish, and you can even publish it as a HTML report or publish to Joomla, or if you want to save the diagram in terms of report, even saving the diagram image can be helpful. If you want to embed it in a different document, we can do that, save it to a file, etc. Then go to report builder, generate documentation, and then all you do is select, for example, here it's a use case details or use case summary, whichever one you want. Or if you want use case scenarios, just select the template, or for example, I'm doing this, and then say generate, then you get the use case document. And this document is customizable as well. It's not like you have to stick to the template as hard and fast. You can change, you have the options. If you see the generate documentation window here, and then there's a panel which allows you, there are options. You can suppress certain sections, you can have exclude filters if you want a particular type of element or a name that should not appear, you can add it, you can do it. There is word substitution. If you want to substitute a particular let's say, for example, if it's just an item number, which doesn't actually make any sense in a report, and if you want to make it to a logical thing, a logical number, then you can, for example, if it's a paint company and there's a code for a particular color, say polar bear, and then it's like 011 blah blah blah, and then just want to change it to polar bear, you can just say, okay, this color is actually called polar bear color. So you can do all these things. It's highly customizable. You can adapt it to your own standards and set by your organization. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no,
Answer
that
the question?
answers the question. That shows how you can customize things, how you can add sections. Now, there's a question from Ralph about, importing test cases, and it says, could one use some of the requirement management features to import from Microsoft apps, example, Excel and Word? So, and there's another question from another user that said some of their testers aren't very proficient in EA, and can you get things in and out of Excel and into Enterprise Architect? So
That's a fantastic question. We covered this topic in our last webinar in Enterprise Architect for Business Analysis series. If any of you have not attended the webinar, it's there in the YouTube channel in Enterprise Architect for Business Analysis playlist. You can easily import test cases, requirements from Excel or even Visio. You know, if you want to have the diagrams, use case diagrams from Visio, you can import that as well. So there's a webinar and a lot of resources available in our website for you to access. So feel free to go and access it. So the answer is yes, you can. And I do understand not everyone is proficient enough to use the rich features of EA. That's the whole idea of giving the webinar. We want people to feel comfortable using the user interface. So how should you use the interface? How are the menus intended to be used? The whole idea of the webinar is to give out that information to make people aware of, like, this is how it should be used. If you use it this way, it'll make your life very easy. So yes, I totally agree with that point, and we'll make every effort to make it easier and better for our users.
Thanks, Nithya. And yes, I wanted to do the broad summary to show, yes, we've gone through a lot of things quickly, but also in an hour, we've been able to do an incredibly rich amount of detail. And so once you are proficient in Enterprise Architect, it saves you time, money, and effort and energy every day. So I'm just going to do two quick questions that I'll field myself. It says, are there links to other webinars? So if you go to sparxsystems.com/webinars, it will take you to the webinars list. And it's also available from the menu system from the homepage, where you can look at upcoming webinars. And there is a webinar coming up in 2021 on 15.2, which you might like to sign up for. And you can look at all of our previous webinars for free. And the one other question, is it possible to get the project file for practice? Well, Nithya has been using the Enterprise Architect example model, and that ships with every copy of Enterprise Architect. So it's available, it's in the installation directory, and you can open it directly from Enterprise Architect as well. So yes, it's available, and we've deliberately shipped that with every copy of Enterprise Architect so that you can look at these things, try them for yourself, and do that. So I will just briefly wrap things up ever so quickly. So we'll have a new webinar in 2021 in January on Enterprise Architect 15.2 on some of the collaboration features. So we encourage you to attend that session. This webinar will appear on YouTube and sparxsystems.com, and we encourage everyone to download the free Enterprise Architect 15-point trial if they don't already have Enterprise Architect, so that they can try some of these features for themselves. And as always, if you have any questions or suggestions, oops, I didn't press show my screen, I apologize. Please email webinar@sparxsystems.com. And someone talked about the link. So if you go to sparxsystems.com/webinars, it will take you to this link, which is resources, webinar registration. So yeah, /webinar and /webinars will both take you to the appropriate page. So what I'll do now is I'll just thank you, the presenter, Nithya, and I'll get you to wrap up.
Fantastic. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate everyone's interest in Enterprise Architect and business analysis practice. Please do follow our EA for BA series in 2021 as well. Hope 2021 is happier and more makes us more social, and together, Merry Christmas and Happy 2021. Thank you all. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Nithya, and thanks everyone for attending today. Have a great festive season. Look after one another, and look forward to seeing you again in 2021. So thank you.
Cheers.